Tonight, the Consulting Engineers of Alberta honors 3 remarkable men. Each has taken a different career path, but the results are similar. They have all achieved success in consulting engineering. Gino Ferri, John Chomiak, and Charlie Weir are the recipients of the 2013 Lieutenant Governor's Award for Distinguished Achievement.
I took engineering for 2 years and then decided I wasn't going back to school. I wasn't going back to Montreal. My mother almost killed me, and I flipped a coin between, I was taking officer's training in Chomiak, flipped a coin and ended up in Edmonton. Here I am a few years later. I'm still involved in it here.
He wears RJC on his sleeve. He is the ultimate corporate mentor, counsel, chair of the board in flag waiver. Their firm, of course, is one of the best structural engineering firms in the country.
I was trying to think where I first met him, and I met him, he was jaywalking in Edmonton by the City Hall. I almost ran over him, and he knew who I was. I stopped, he jumps in the car, he says, drive me somewhere. So that's Gino, that's how I became to know Gino. From then on, it was, John, are you following this building? John, are you following that building or pursuing? He's a good guy and down to earth, and I'm glad I didn't run him over.
Gino has always brought into the office environment a great deal of, let's say, enthusiasm and energy. He really does never stop, working, being an RGC representative.
The crazy hours is I start early, that's all. I always say if you were here for an 8 to 5 job, I don't have any time for you. If you're here for a career, I got all the time in the world to help you. And the difference is what we do is a career. It's like a doctor, it's like a dentist. I mean, this is what engineering is about.
Gino, to me, is a consummate professional and gentleman. And one of the things that I admire about Gino is that no matter what you do with Gino, there's always hard work, but you always have fun doing it. If you can have fun, it's inspiring, and you want to do better and do more. So Gino's always taught people that you put more than your best foot forward.
Certainly have learned that you need to have community involvement because it's part and parcel of what we do.
Gino became involved with the Autism Society after the birth of his grandson, who lives with autism, and that was about 20 years ago. And I was taken with his commitment and his leadership capabilities. Gino has not made a difference, he has made the difference. He came at a time when it was fumbling, as all societies do after a certain course of time, and he brought business leadership and strategic vision and fundraising capabilities. And we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Gino Ferri.
Gino, for me, has been very much like a father to me. He's definitely behaved as a father would in the guidance that he provided and the emotional support that he provided when needed. So for that, I'm very, very thankful.
He's a family man, but his family is extended to his community. And that's based on love and caring. He's honest. The integrity of whatever position he may take can't be challenged. He's fiercely loyal to his company and to his clients and to the consulting groups that he works with. He is the complete package, and as a consequence, I think there are few principles of consulting companies that actually can wave a flag about their company as proudly as Gino Ferri.
My first project was the Hillcrest Elementary School. Caterpillar engines were used for producing heat, cooling, and power. So that was a very familiar sight. When you're off the farm, you play around with these kind of engines. And this project was the masterpiece in Canada because nobody spoke about total energy or sustainable design at that point in 1962. How was our staff producing the work, Jerry? We got enough capacity? Engineering isn't just technical. If you want to succeed, You got to know the business side. So I grew, learned, spent time in night schools and people management, financial management. But I guess 50 years went by.
Just talking to people in the industry that I have maintained relationships with, mechanical contractors, owners, and that, Hemisphere Engineering is definitely one of the foremost leaders in mechanical and electrical engineering services in the Alberta area.
I mean, he's a guy that sees the long deal. I mean, this engineering firm is a perfect example. How he's taken into whole new kinds of industries that high technology industries that John had the vision. That's where they needed to go.
I think he epitomizes what everybody would like to be. Hard worker, empathy, compassion, sympathy, understanding, and the type of employer that you'd like to work for.
He has not ever been afraid to enable his young engineers to experiment, to explore, to make mistakes, to learn from them. And so that degree of commitment fosters innovation. It's something which is part of the Hemisphere culture.
John is a person who encourages people to be the best they can be. And he certainly did that when I was a member of the legislature.
A lot of people look at the politics as with some negative. But politics behind the scenes is a great place for networking. It's amazing what people you meet.
Great sense of humor, a great Charlet breeder. You think he's into his third decade, and he's won awards. They have some prize bulls. He's a philanthropist. He runs an amazing business in Hemisphere Engineering. But he's also a guy you can find out in his overalls out in the farm fixing machinery.
I know John by his work within the community, which is substantial. You know, whether it's with any of the hospital boards or whether it's raising funds or any number of charities, John has been a real leader.
I got to know John very well when I assumed the position of executive director at the Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital Foundation, and John was on the board.
The Glenrose is such a super facility. Your other hospitals make you live, but the Glenrose is the one that makes a person useful.
I'd like to say that I think John, with his wife Kathy, have been extraordinary contributors to the quality of life that we enjoy here in Alberta.
He's just one of those unique individuals that can do it all quietly, but he gets it done.
I think I'm a better person because of knowing John Chomiak. And I think that is also true for everybody who has met this wonderful individual, without question.
Charlie Weir had a very significant impact on the company. Charlie was the CEO of Stuart Weir. He basically created the engineering group. Charlie essentially created the platform to bring surveying and engineering together and work harmoniously to deliver a project. So it doesn't sound like a really significant thing, but it definitely put Stuart Weir on the right track, and we're much better for it today.
The Transportation Utility Corridor, where the Anthony Henday is being built right now, that was a brainchild of a group of people back in the late 70s, and Charlie was one of the driving forces that was part of that.
I remember Charlie mentioned at the time, well, it's going to take 30 years probably for this system to get built out. And that was around 1985. Here in Edmonton, we're on the last ring now, so around 2015. We're going to be finishing off the last part of that, and that's right around the 30-year mark. So he was pretty good at that guessing at that time.
He was a visionary, and he was also a leader. And to me, I was always amazed at how he could bring everybody together and get them functioning and doing their part. I always was amazed the fact that he would know what was going on the day-to-day type things with the engineers or with the surveyors or with the mapping people. He'd have an inkling what's going on there and an interest in it. And yet he was off thinking about something else. He was thinking about FIG, or he was thinking about meeting with a government minister, or talking about the transportation corridors or something. So he was a good multitasker.
Well, Charlie was a very busy person. He was involved in a lot of activities. He was a family man, but he was involved in local politics, local associations, and even international associations.
When he came into a room, he'd command presence. He was that kind of a person. And he would sometimes seem kind of imposing, but once you got to know him, he was actually very jolly, very approachable, a real gentleman, a very nice man.
I wanted to mention very much to show you how personable he was and how he cared for his employees. And one day he came to me and he says, why don't you and Vera back up and go to Jasper for a week? I've got a place reserved for you. You just go there and spend a week and forget about Stuart Weir. He cared. That's the kind of person he was.
I think, Charlie, if you were here right now to look at Stuart Weir to see what it's become, you know, it's becoming a very big company right now, and not just a big company. You know, it still has a reputation of quality. It's still very family-oriented. It still bears his name. It's a name that we know carries a lot of recognition amongst the survey industry and in the consulting engineers. And we're proud to have it as part of the company right now.
Charlie was very proud of both his survey background and engineering background. And I don't think he needed to make a choice on anything. I think, number one, he was a family person and a CEO that happened to know surveying and engineering.
You see how he's still being honored here? I think he'd be very proud and you know, aware that he's had quite an accomplished life.
Gino, John, and Charlie, your contributions to both the industry and the community are remarkable. Congratulations.